Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Hinata silently entered the Hokage's office with a basket in hand. The two shinobi who were outside the Hokage's door gave her respectful bows and she gave them a gentle smile in return. When she was inside, she sighed at the sight of the messy table and the cups of ramen that decorated it. There were two people inside. One was a blonde-whiskered man who grinned at the sight of her and the other was a handsome, rugged-looking Nara. He gave her a slight tilt of the lips when their eyes met. The Hokage and the genius advisor. Hina. Naruto stood up and rushed to her like a little kid. Even though they were married for a year now, Naruto still treated her the way he did in their first months of married life, which made her feel warm and happy inside. The Hokage scooped her up in his arms and gave her a twirl. Be careful, Hinata told her husband and shook her head. Your lunch is in the basket, it might spill. Naruto brought her down, pouting playfully. She disregarded her husband for a bit and looked at Nara Shikamaru. He was standing next to Naruto's table, reading something on a piece of parchment. Ever since Naruto was appointed as Hokage after Kakashi retired, Shikamaru has been by the Uzumaki's side, always there to help him in times of ups and downs. Shikamaru-kun, Hinata, Shikamaru said in acknowledgement, still holding the piece of parchment close to his face. Hinata's eyes landed on the Nara's pointed beard for a moment before realizing that Shikamaru now looks a lot like his late father, Shikaku Nara, just without the facial scars. Anyo, I made you 2 lunches. Hinata said and raised the basket for them to see. Naruto grinned, grabbed the basket from her hands and planted a kiss on her forehead. Why you two share it, okay? No need to eat cup noodles. She eyed the empty noodle cups on Naruto's table. She was not against instant food but she preferred if her husband eat homemade. Roger. Hinata faces her husband who was now busy digging the basket for the food she brought. I can't stay long. I have my genin team waiting for me by the field. Ah, the new batch. Konoha 15, Naruto said knowingly. How is your teammate doing? I heard you have a bunch of rowdies. They are not rowdies. Hinata answered gently. They just needed a bit of attention. Shikamaru watched as Naruto grinned again and grabbed the Hyuga. No, ex-Hyuga by the waist and planted another big kiss on her forehead. Somehow, the act amused him. Naruto, who was never aware of Hinata's obvious feelings in their academy days, was acting like a boy who was just experiencing puppy love for the first time. Personally, Shikamaru was somehow convinced that Naruto and Hinata's decision to get married last year was too soon. Naruto was all Sakura in the past and after moving on from that unrequited love was finally able to notice Hinata. They got married a few months after that. It just seemed too fast. Hinata blushed at her husband's public display of affection and she shyly backed away. She caught Shikamaru's eyes so she smiled at him apologetically. The Nara shrugged in return and continued where he left off in his paperwork. I need to go now. Hinata said. Naruto's grin subsided into a smile. Okay. Oh. Nara Temari peered critically at a bunch of purple-colored flowers that caught her attention inside the Yamanaka's flower shop. The flowers were beautiful and it looks like a cross between lavender and orchid. She was not really a fan of flowers but it was beautiful, she kind of just noticed it. Ino, who was sitting behind the counter, noticed Temari's expression. The Yamanaka leaned forward, resting her chin on the back of her hands. Ino's husband, Sai, was supposed to be the one watching the shop today but he was called on some important Anbu mission. Sai was now the head of the Anbu Black Ops and he was always running everywhere. Love that too, they are beautiful, no? Yeah, Temari answered. What's the name? It's a new breed that came from the water country. They named it Midnight Bloom. How original. Ino giggled. Temari was so like Shikamaru even by the way she talked. There was that lazy undertone even if the words were said with wit. No wonder they ended up together. Sure, they were not really complimentary, but their attitudes fit. Yeah, you want some? No. Temari answered and backed away from the plant. To some, her answer may sound curt and unfriendly, but Ino knew her enough to know that it was just that way she talked. Yamanaka Ino was her husband's best friend and a part of the Ino Shikacho. They were very well acquainted. I don't know how to grow flowers and I might them. Nonsense. Ino shook her long blonde mane and stood up. She grabbed a large shear from her counter drawer and leapt gracefully on top of it and then down on the hard soil. Tell you what, you don't have to pay. I'll give them to you, but make sure that you follow my instructions on how to care for them. Temari shook her head. Ino, I don't know how. I never laid a hand on a flower before. That's why I am here to help you. I am not sure. Nah, you are a wife now. You have to learn these kinds of things. Half an hour later, Temari found herself carrying a potted plant on one hand and a notebook with Ino's written instructions on the other. Being Suna's ex-military commander took all of her time and attention in the past that she never really have time to be womanly. She could not even cook Shikamaru one decent meal without his taste buds with too much salt or making him drown in too much sugar. She tried, of course, but she was not just cut out to be a housewife. With a hiss, Temari threw the potted plant air look before stopping in front of the Nara compound. Shikamaru was now the head of the Nara clan, so as she entered the gates, a few Nara clan members who happened to see her gave slight bows and smiles. For a second, Temari was thankful that Shikamaru was not in a clan like the Hyuga. Hyugas are so prim and proper it was almost scary. Hell, she would not marry Shikamaru if that was the case. Shikamaru eyed the purple plant that was sitting on top of the table. Based on the pot and how well it was placed, he took it that his wife passed by Ino's flower shop today. Temari doesn't love flowers that much, but Ino was a persuasive enough person. He gave the plant a week. Temari emerged from the kitchen, carrying a tray of steaming hot stew and a few side dishes. The apron that she was wearing was placed awkwardly around her waist because it was tied into a clumsy knot. No matter how Temari was graceful when it comes to weapons like her giant fan, she was the total opposite when it comes to house chores. She placed the tray with a little force than needed and some of the stew spilled. Shikamaru was fast enough to get out of the way and Temari hissed. I'm sorry. She hastily plucked a dish cloth from her apron pocket and wiped the spilled contents. Smells good, Shikamaru said as the delicious aroma filled his nose. Did you cook it? Temari shook her head. A cuisine like this was just out of her ability. She practiced a lot behind her husband's back, but she was just not cut out for cooking. Ever since she was a child, she was very competitive and it pissed her big that one of the most basic house chores was too hard for a seasoned kunoichi like her. I bought it. Shikamaru nodded, not surprised at all. And the plant? Ino forced it on me. Again, the Nara clan head was not surprised. Ino was just being Ino. I am going to attend a dinner party for all the clan heads this week. I am not going. Temari placed a bowl in front of her husband, trying to be careful as she filled it with soup and vegetable chunks. She heard about the said meeting and the Hyuga clan was going to be the one hosting it. Temari told herself that she has nothing against the Hyuga clan, but she hated dressing up and all that prim and proper etiquette was making her choke. Hinata personally told me to bring you. Shikamaru said, noticing the bitter expression that passed over his wife's face. Temari was a friendly person, even though it was not obvious to some. She was just having issues when it comes to clan meetings because she hated doing girly stuffs like dressing up in a kimono and wearing her hair in a different style aside from her 4 spiky ponytails. Shikamaru got to admit that he understood. Those things are troublesome. Ugh. Temari scowled. Hinata was one of the nicest people. She has the luck to be acquainted, and Temari hated turning her down. Tell them I'm sick. Shikamaru was silent, but he took the bowl that Temari offered him and ate. Being a clan head was not an easy task, but his father was a clan head before him, and no matter how troublesome, he knew he has to do his best. As he chewed, he noticed that Temari removed the plant off the table. What are you doing? I'm going to put it outside the house later. Ino said they will grow in cool places, and this is the hottest area in the house. Looks like it. Yeah. Oh, my brother is arriving tomorrow. Temari said, and then regretting that she did. Shikamaru was Naruto's advisor and right-hand man, so he probably was aware about it. Oh right, I forgot. You know that, of course. I do. Is he going to stay in our house? I don't know. Gaara could not leave Suna too long. Oh, what took you so long? Naruto asked as he ushered his wife inside their home. When he looked at the clock, it was already 11 in the evening and he has been waiting for 3 hours. Hinata looked worn out, so he frowned at her. Hinata, Hanabi asked for your help again, didn't she? Hinata sat down on the couch as Naruto walked over the fridge and got her some water. I told you not to wait for me, Naruto-kun. You have an early meeting with the Kage tomorrow and I don't want you dozing off again like the last time. But I can't sleep without you. He passed her the glass of water. Hinata smiled. I'm sorry. Hanabi was having a hard time being the new clan head, and father is not as young as he used to. I have to help my sister. Without Neji ni, me and Hanabi has to help each other in leading the clan. Naruto sat beside Hinata and rubbed his chin. I told father that Hanabi is too young to lead the clan at 19. She's genius, I believe she can do it. Have you eaten? Naruto asked. Yes. And you? Cup noodles. Hinata straightened up and gave her husband a sharp look. She told him 1,000 times already that no cup noodles during supper. It was not good for the body and never will be. I told you. I'm sorry. Just this one time, I promise. You said that the last time. The next morning, Hinata woke up early like usual and prepared breakfast even before Naruto was awake. And when he was awake, she helped him bandage his arm, the new arm that was the replacement for the one that got cut during his fight with Sasuke, and made sure that his clothes were well ironed and presentable. Her husband was going to talk about the peace treaties with Suna today, so. Delicious. Naruto said after eating his fill. When Hinata stopped beside him to get his used plate, he pulled her by the waist and she ended sitting on his lap. His wife made protests, so he wrapped her in his embrace for good measure. Naruto, why you need to hurry or you're going to be late? Just a minute with my wife. Hinata stopped struggling and sat still. Naruto pressed his face on her back and sighed. His wife always smells so good, it was intoxicating. I have an appointment with Sakura today, well, later. Your arm. Yeah, I baked cookies yesterday. Why don't you bring Sakura-chan some? She loved the cookies I baked the last time. Hinata said as she remembered how the pink-haired medic fought her way against Choji and his red-haired girlfriend in order to get a hand on her cookies. Okay. But make sure to leave me some. Okay. When Naruto left for his early meeting, Hinata cleared the table and wiped the sink. Her father offered a few times to assign helpers to help with her house chores, but she declined. She likes it when she was the one who does all the housework. Naruto always helps, and even if they were both busy sometimes, it was enjoyable. After making sure that the kitchen was clean and everything was on proper place, Hinata removed her apron and walked out of the house. Outside, she glanced at her herbs and floral garden as she walked past it. The flowers were in full bloom and the colors unique. It would surely make Ino proud. Mentally reminding herself to bring Neji's grave sunflowers later, Hinata followed the road that would lead her to Training Ground 13. She told her genin team yesterday to wait for her there and go on with their practice with or without her. Her team consisted of an Aburame, an Inuzuka, and a Hyuga. It was like her old team all over again. Mom. Hinata saw a ruby-eyed girl running towards her. It was a young girl with slightly messed hair and a chakra signature that was identical to the late Sarutobi Asuma. The girl has Shikamaru Nara in tow. Mirai, Shikamaru. Hinata smiled. Shikamaru scratched his head. Hinata. She wanted you to train her again. Hinata asked the Nara with a knowing look. Mirai can be persuasive sometimes or too eager. It was an attitude developed when she was very young because Team Asuma and Team Kurenai has her pampered she could almost get away with murder. The young Sarutobi also calls Hinata, Mom. It started when Hinata was babysitting Mirai and out of nowhere, the young girl started calling her that way, much to Kurenai's delight. Shikamaru also gained the title of Dad a few weeks later. How about the meeting? Shikamaru shrugged. It's Gaara. You know him in Naruto. The peace treaty is just formality. Mirai grabbed Hinata's hand. Mom, train with me too. But I have my genin team Mirai-chan. Please. Shikamaru pulled Mirai by the collar and jerked her back. Mirai. That's enough. Dad. Mirai whined but Shikamaru would not let go. Hinata smiled at the sight because the Nara was acting so fatherly to Asuma's daughter. It was nice. Mirai needs a fatherly figure after all, and Kiba or Choji were far from being one. They were like naughty uncles who spoil the girl rotten. But Hinata is busy. You already have me to train you. Shikamaru looked upwards and saw that the sky was bright and no signs of coming rain. It was good for training and he could use his shadow jutsus freely too. Unexpectedly, his fingers twitched and an urge to grab a cigarette stick kicked in. Shikamaru looked at Hinata, wondering what she might say if he lighted a cigarette in front of Mirai. Ino always rants about it so. Mirai continued to pout and Hinata sighed. Okay. You can train with me and my team today. I hope you will find them good company Mirai-chan, they are nice. Which training field? Mirai's eyes lightened up. 13. Oi, Hinata. Yay. With a victorious whoop and mutterings of thank you, the girl was off like lightning, leaving dust on her wake. Shikamaru shook his head and pocketed his hands, still contemplating if he could light a cigarette without receiving a sermon. Temari would not let him hear the end of it. You are letting Mirai have her way again. He told Hinata. Hinata shrugged. She's young. I received her academy report card. Shino said that she's a ruckus inside the classroom. Mirai doesn't have the calm of her mother. Hinata answered with another smile. Shikamaru's eyes were darting between her and his pocket. She saw a cigarette stick sticking out of it. Anyo, smoking is not good for your health Shikamaru, please be moderate with it. Sure. Shikamaru removed his hands away from the cigarette and curled them on the back of his neck. I'll be going now Shikamaru-kun. You better. The Nara's lips tilted. Thanks for relieving me of Mirai today. Oh. Haruno Sakura curled her fingers around a small glass-like orb and watched in wonder as the small white flakes inside rained down on a small ceramic girl. Beside her, Lee waited for her answer patiently with glittering eyes. This is beautiful, Lee. Where did you get this? Snow country. They call it snow globes. Lee answered happily as he fingered a red string on his bandaged hands. Do you think Tenten will like it? I'll be damned if she doesn't. Lee brightened up more and he flashed Sakura a sparkly grin. Thank you Sakura-chan. I know I could rely on you with your terrific taste. Well thanks Lee. After trying the red ribbon around the snow globe, with Sakura's help, Lee darted out of Sakura's office with a huge smile on his face. It was his and Tenten's anniversary of being in a relationship so he was very excited about the present he bought for the weapon mistress. It was from his last mission's earnings and he was happy that he was able to purchase something beautiful. Sakura closed the door of her office and returned to her desk, picking a few scraps of gift wrapper on the way. She crumpled the colorful wrapper into a ball and threw it inside a waste bin. The paper ball hit its mark and Sakura gave a small victorious sound. It was also at the same time that the door opened. Lee is acting weird. Naruto stepped inside the clinic in all of his Hokage glory. The white cloak with the fire designs caught Sakura's eyes, so she was not able to say anything for a few seconds until Naruto grinned. "Hey Sakura-chan, you look distracted." Sakura blinked. "Sorry, I'm still not used at seeing you wearing the Hokage getup." "Well, I'm still new to the position, so I think it's normal." "You look good though." "Gee, thanks." Naruto scratched his head and for a short moment, Sakura was lost in memories when Naruto was still a young rascal. No, idiot rascal, who did nothing but be in trouble because of his loud mouth. Looking at him now, living his dream, Sakura swelled with pride. Naruto walked closer and flicked the pink diamond on Sakura's forehead. The Haruno gave an annoyed grimace and crossed her arms. "Stop that. How's the peace talks going? I'm getting the hand of it." "Hey Sakura-chan, I heard Sasuke visited you yesterday." Some guards saw him. Sakura's face fell. She looked down and her arms uncrossed themselves to hang limply on her sides. Naruto instantly caught the change of mood and it made him frown. Sasuke was now a roaming nin, but he stops at Konoha sometimes, maybe once every 6 months. Yeah, he did alright. Did he do something stupid again? Naruto hated seeing Sakura so down. He wanted her to be happy. Sakura deserves it. That Tem, I really am going to give him a. He asked me to see his arm, or what used to be his arm. Naruto stopped from going on his rant and his lips formed into an, "Oh. I see, I thought he did something terrible again." Sakura bit her lip. Naruto raised a fist. "That idiot. No, actually Naruto, he did the opposite. He did nothing." I don't get it." Sakura smiled and shook her head. "Never mind about that." She walked to the Hokage and placed a hand on his shoulder. Naruto was way taller, so she has to strain in order to do it. Unlike the other nins, she and Naruto acted informally around each other, even though he was now Hokage. It just seems neutral and they were not Team 7 for nothing. They have a bond. Sakura pushed Naruto down on a chair. "Okay. Roll your sleeve up and let me see your arm." "Yes ma'am." She gave Naruto a shove on the head. "Don't call me that. It makes me feel like an old lady." "You are old. I'm not. You should start a family, Sakura-chan." Sakura scoffed. "Geez. Thanks for the advice." As she helped Naruto rolled up the sleeve of his white cloak, Sakura could feel the hard muscles underneath. Unconsciously, she wondered how Naruto, a once snotty kid, was able to transform into a handsome, tall, and well-muscled man. Sometimes Sakura can't help but wonder if she would have been happy if she gave Naruto a chance. "Say Naruto, how's being Hokage? I don't see you often." "Sorry about that. Being a village cage is not all free time. I have to do a lot of work." When the sleeves were rolled, Sakura started removing the bandages. The way the strips of white cloth around Naruto's arm were tied neatly, she took it that it was tied with Hinata's help. "Stretch your arm a bit." Placing the bandages on a tray for later discarding, Sakura started checking the arm. Ino poked her husband on the side and peered over his shoulder. She was tending to her flowers when she noticed that he was too immersed in his painting, so she came over to see who or what Sai was putting on his canvas. It was her. Sai smiled when he saw her reaction. "I like painting your emotions." A vein on Ino's forehead twitched. Suddenly, she has an urge to shove her slightly emotionless husband by the back of his neck. Contrary to what others believe, Sai has emotions, but they were just too guarded and too secured within his mind that it somehow doesn't reach the outside for everyone to see. And why, might I ask, do I look like a cat? You always paint me beautiful. You are beautiful. Then why the cat face? I like your emotions. This is when you are angry. Ino scowled at the painting but doesn't press her case. It was better to leave Sai alone because no matter what face he paints, he was always so sweet. It was the same reason why she had fallen head over heels for him a few years back. It was crazy really, for she hated him like a leech when he called her ugly that one time, when he was still a root anbu under creepy old man Danzo. Sai doesn't care for others back then because root are trained to their own emotions and never mingle socially. Good thing everything changed. Well, almost. Ino thought when she remembered how frank and oblivious sometimes her husband was. There were still times that Sai tends to say the wrong words at the wrong time because he still doesn't have common sense when mingling with other people. It was funny, but sometimes troublesome. Sai placed a hand on her arm and Ino found herself leaning over and resting her chin on his shoulder. Her husband was nice and he was genuine, always ready to support whatever what. They were an odd pair, sure, and no one really saw it coming that they were going to get married. Everyone thought that she was going to end up with Kiba in Izuka, since they have been going out for a few months and everything seemed so serious between them. She loved the Inuzuka in the past, of course, she won't date him if she doesn't. But Kiba was a hotshot and so was she. They always end up quarreling, and although they made up a few times, their relationship was growing strained until they just could not stand in each other's presence. So they ended it and tried to be friends again. It was successful though, the friendship part, because they were able to act like old times around each other. Unfortunately, she could still hear rumors going on that the reason why Kiba haven't started his own family yet was because he was still in love with her. Talking about guilt trip. You are quiet, Sai noted, pushing his brushes aside to stand from the stool he was sitting. Ino curled her hands around Sai's dark hair and shook her head. Nothing. Hey, would you watch the shop for me this afternoon? I have to go and check my interrogation troop. We have newbies, so I have to let them know the drill. When her father died in the last war, Ino replaced his position in the interrogation troop and was now captain. Naruto wants me to personally keep an eye on them. Sure. I have no work today. The couple continued to small talk until a familiar presence intruded. Ino scrunched her nose and face, turning into a snarl. Even from a few meters away, her nose could pick up the scent of a cigarette. Shikamaru Nara, you are going to destroy your lungs. Shikamaru shrugged and removed the cancer stick from his mouth. He showed it to Ino, who let go of Sai and placed her hands on her hips. With a sigh, Shikamaru dropped the cigarette and placed a foot over it. Habits die hard. I love Asuma-sensei, but damn, I hate his vices. Shikamaru. Sai said and smiled again, pale face lightening up. The Nara genius was a close friend and one of the few who Sai gets along well. Even when Sai makes the mistakes of saying insulting and inappropriate things unintentional, of course, Shikamaru never gets angry. In fact, the Nara doesn't care at all. Shikamaru was the total opposite of Sakura, who likes beating Sai into a pulp if she was insulted by something that he said. Where's Temari? Ino asked. Training field. Ino bit the inside of her cheek. Ah, a Tsunarian being promoted as head of the guards. Impressive. Anyways, what brings you here, Shika? You never visit unless your head is on the line. It was meant to be a joke, but Ino could not help adding a sour tone. She misses her male teammates, but both of them are very busy. Choji was now head of the Akamaiki clan and was spending all of his time with his new girlfriend, while Shikamaru was always needed at the Hokage tower. Sometimes, Ino misses her teenage years terribly. They could always hang out wherever they want as long as there was no mission. Even Sakura was having a hard time seeing her. Being the head of the medic team was taking all of the Haruno's time. Shikamaru caught the undertone and gave Ino an apologetic smile. Spill, what do you need? About the coming clan head dinner party. I need your help getting a yuka. Ino frowned. Shika, you are asking me for a yukata, again. What did you do to the last one I handpicked for you? Temari washed it the wrong way. Instead of putting soap, she accidentally used oil. She wanted to get me a new one, but she is on duty today. How was that even possible to mistake oil from soap? Ino made an exasperated sound as her eyes rolled. Temari was hopeless. Every time something came up like formal events or parties, Shikamaru always has to come to her for help. He has a wife for Kami's sake. He should be asking his wife and not his female best friend. There was nothing wrong with it, but what are wives for? Your wife is hopeless in simple housework. Ino groaned. And I can't do it for you because I have something to do at the interrogation building today. I mean, I could let you borrow some of size yukata, but you're bigger and he is a few inches taller and, oh my god, the clan head meeting is just 3 days and you need to. Shikamaru backed a step and raised a hand. It's alright, Ino. Do not stress yourself. No. Ino snapped and Sai slowly backed away. He slowly picked his painting tools as his wife continued to speak. You are a Nara clan head. You can't show at the dinner party in an old yukata with oil stains and, oh alright. There's another way. A few hours later, Shikamaru found out what was Ino's other way. Ah, he scratched his head and looked up to the sky. It was a habit and he sometimes depended the activities that he was planning based on it. If it was dark and gloomy, he usually stays at the Hokage tower and help Naruto with paperwork. If it was sunny and bright, he usually trains Mirai in preparation for her Chunin exams. I am sorry for troubling you, Hinata. I could not stop Ino from calling you. Hinata shook her head. Not at all. I also have to get Naruto a new yukata. I am glad for the company. They walked in the middle of the busy street. Hinata was holding a small purse on her right hand and it matches the color of her purple long dress and blue hair. Shikamaru noticed it but said nothing. It was not news that Hinata was beautiful. Complimenting her would just be repeating something she heard 1,000 times before and he was too lazy to bother. Where is Temari-chan? Doesn't she want to get a new yukata? She might need it for the dinner party. She's not feeling well. Shikamaru lied. For a second there, the lie tasted bitter in his mouth. She might be too tired to attend. Oh, I'll send a few of my healing concoctions. They might help. No need, Hinata. We don't want to bother you. For the second time, Hinata shook her head. Not at all. Temari is a friend. It is the least that I could do. They stopped in front of a fabric store. Hinata stepped in first and when Shikamaru hesitated, she gestured for him to follow with a smile. It was like she was coaxing a puppy. Shikamaru followed with hands inside his pockets and feeling a little defeated. It was okay if it was Ino since Temari sometimes asks Ino's help in choosing yukatas or something of the sort. Temari admitted that she was not into those things so it was okay to ask his best friend's help. But Hinata on the other hand. They were good friends of course, but it felt odd because he never asked her help like this, except for matters concerning Mirai. Well, literally it was Ino who asked but still. Shikamaru-kun, would you come here for a second? Shikamaru frowned when he found himself spacing out and Hinata was already calling from a few meters away. She was standing by a cloth rack with the seller. The said seller, seeing that it was the Hokage's wife, was getting out of his way just to make Hinata feel welcome by smiling wide and doing small talk. Oh, sorry, Shikamaru muttered as he made his way towards them. When he reached Hinata's side, she gently tugged his sleeve and turned him around. Before he could ask why, she placed a small square cloth on his back. He heard her say something about fabric with darker colors and the shop owner scurried happily to fetch it. Shikamaru-kun, are you okay with dark colors? I think it suits you. She told him. Ah, have it your way. Oi Shikamaru, don't you have a wife for that? The Hokage's wife and the Hokage's advisor jerked their heads at the same time to the sound of the familiar voice. Even without looking, Hinata knew who it was and she smiled. Kiba was standing by the entrance with his furry jacket slung over his shoulder and only a netted shirt to cover his muscular torso. She noticed that he has been growing his beard too. Kiba-kun. Hinata-chan. Kiba gave the girl a hug when he reached her and one big kiss on the forehead. I just finished my mission but I decided to stop by to get new fabric for my jacket. It's torn. Kiba showed Hinata the tattered sleeve. Hey genius, he gave Shikamaru a pat on the arm. I see your loud wife deserted you. Shikamaru smiled but said nothing. Kiba and Temari were both sarcastic loudmouths so they never really get along with each other. I'll fix it. Hinata offered. Nah, you can't always take care of me Hinata. Of course I can. The Hyuga now turned Uzumaki grabbed the jacket and tucked it safely in her arms. She then looked at Kiba and let her eyes roam up and down. I think you also need a yukata. Your sister and Aoba-san is still on wedding vacation, right? And you will be attending that clan meeting on her stead. Kiba scowled. I hate yukatas. They don't compliment me. But you need them. Oh, and I'll get one for Shino too. For sure he hasn't gotten himself one yet. Kiba turned to Shikamaru who was lazily eyeing a few display of rolled fabrics. Kiba winked and slung an arm over the Nara. That's why I love our rookie 9 girls. They always look after us. Oh. Mirai dropped her chopsticks on an empty plate then grabbed the glass of milk beside it. She chugged the milk down and slammed the glass on the table. Kurenai, who was washing the dishes on the sink turned her head and regarded her only daughter with a firm eye. Dear, what did I told you about table manners? Oops, sorry mother. Why are you so, excited anyway? Kurenai asked. Mom allowed me to train along with her genin team today and Auntie Ino will show me how to braid my hair after that. I really don't like braids since I want my hair free but Dad said I should just get along with it. He said that doing what Auntie Ino says is better than disobeying her. Well, Shikamaru is right. Dad is always right. He is a genius, Mirai said with a wide smile. The words were declared with great admiration that it made Kurenai smile too. Shikamaru was Mirai's father figure and she looked up to him like a hero. Asuma was sure lucky to have a student like him. No, to have a team like the Ino Shikacho. And she was lucky to have her teammate. Mother. Yes. Why are mom and dad not together? Why did they marry other people? The question made Kurenai pause and she looked at her daughter thoughtfully. It was understandable that Mirai would want for Hinata and Shikamaru to be together, because such was the girlish fantasy and the two Junins were parental characters for her. She adores them and they love her in return. Ah, Shikamaru and Hinata are good friends, that I am sure. Then why are they not together? They like each other but they have the love of their lives. Mirai-chan, surely you understand these kinds of things. You are already a big girl. I am but, Mirai bit the inside of her cheek. But I am wondering why they did not see each other that way. Mom could never talk around Uncle Naruto a lot because he beats her into it but she could talk like the way a girl should when dad is around. They never even argue once, and dad listens, what mom says, he listens. Kurenai smiled at the analysis. Mirai-chan. And dad pretends to listens to what Auntie Temari says but I know he doesn't. I could see it in his eyes. He just lets her but never really pays attention. And Auntie is never gentle like mom, she always scolds and her voice is scary. You will understand a lot better when you grow a little older, dear. There are just things that are hard to explain. Shikamaru's mother is a lot like Temari after all. Mirai frowned. Like Dad's mother. Trust me. You will understand someday. Mirai let the topic go and Kurenai returned to her kitchen work, still amused at the questions that her daughter was bombarding her. Mirai was smart for her age, but the kid was too curious for her own good, and too much curiosity could bring trouble. Hopefully, it doesn't result to that. After gathering the used plates and wiping the table, Mirai kissed her mother goodbye and ran out of the house carrying a knapsack full of bodyguards and weaponry. Temari stepped out of the way just as Mirai whipped past her. The little shrimp was carrying a heavy-looking bag and her face bright. When the kid saw her, she smiled guiltily. Aunt Temari, good morning. Hotshot. Watch where you're going. Temari said good-naturedly, but did not realize that her tone was a little off. She saw the young girl flinched and she mentally groaned. Why can't she be like the other women who don't scare a kid by just the tone of voice? Temari tried to do a rebound. Ah, that looks heavy. I'm going to practice. That's nice. Is your mother here? Yes. She is inside the house. Temari smiled. Okay. Thank you, Mirai-chan. When Mirai was out of sight, Temari made her way to the small yet beautiful house with a small Sarutobi clan insignia on the door. The house was also littered with red flowers. The flowers grow in thick bushes and she stared at them in wonder. How could they make beautiful gardens like that? It seems so impossible every time she attempts it. Temari knocked and Kurenai opened the door. Even in her late 30s, Kurenai's grace was still there, and Temari unconsciously tried to picture herself in that same age, wondering if she was going to grow old like that. She guessed not. Kurenai-san, I am so sorry to disturb you, but I need something from you. She shifted her weight on the other foot. She was never the one to ask for favors, but she has no choice. Can I borrow a yukata for Shikamaru? I mean, I heard Ino said you have a few spares. Kurenai smiled. Temari was so flustered looking it was a little funny. Shikamaru's wife was a proud one. Of course. I have some of Asuma's old clothes hidden in a box. I could just buy him a new one, but I have my duty schedule one, have no time to see the details. Temari tried to explain. It's okay. Why don't you go with me upstairs? Oh. Shikamaru stopped in front of the Hyuga clan's residence and looked at the small package wrapped in yellow manila paper on his hands. Are you not going back to your house? He asked Hinata, who was brushing back the long strands of hair from her face. The wind was strong, it was messing with her long tresses. Kiba left minutes ago, muttering something about long baths and paychecks, so he was left to bring Naruto's wife home. Ah, I have to help with the preparation for the dinner party. I see. Thank you for accompanying me, Shikamaru-kun. Naruto is a little busy with all the peace talks coming, so he doesn't have the time. Well, he raised the small package he was holding. We are even. Thanks for the yukata. Hinata smiled. You are welcome. Shikamaru waited until Hinata disappeared inside the gates before continuing on his way. The yukata that they have picked for him, no, Hinata picked for him, was a silken dark color with a hand-painted picture of white doves. He was not really into fashion and clothing, but it was the first time that he actually liked something that he has a hand in purchasing. Hinata did not do anything without his consent, and she was always making sure that he likes it, not just because she liked it and he was willing to let her have her way. Suddenly remembering that he still has some paperwork left in the Hokage's office, Shikamaru switched direction from his home to the tower. It was a lot of paperwork, and Naruto, being Naruto, could surely not finish it on time if left alone. They were reports for the Kiri talks and it was a priority. When he reached the office, he pushed the door open and raised an eyebrow at the sight. Shikamaru, I have been looking for you. Naruto grinned and raised a cup of steaming hot coffee. A few bento boxes littered his desk and a pink-haired medic was smiling beside him. Sakura brought us lunch. Good thing you came back on time, I was about to eat your part. Temari collected the used plates and put them haphazardly on the tray. Her husband was reading something on a piece of scroll and so she did not bother to open up a conversation. Shikamaru was after all the Hokage's advisor and he carries his job sometimes to his house. To Temari's opinion, Naruto was really slacking and most of the work goes down to her husband. Shikamaru was a genius but that doesn't mean all paperwork and most of the thinking should be his job. Naruto was a good person and strong and all that hero stuff but he was just not into the job as everyone think he was. Shikamaru put down the scroll beside him. You are staring at me with the evil eyes again. Her husband's words made Temari smile. I am just thinking, Naruto should do his own paperwork sometimes and not dump them all on you. He is busy. Shikamaru answered. It was true. Naruto was a busy man and he doesn't have enough time to finish all the paperwork. Temari always voices out her disagreement about some of the work going down on him but it was just natural. He was the Hokage's right-hand man and it was his job. Naruto was not the smartest one out there but he sure was fair. Busy. Right. Temari rolled her eyes. Shikamaru chuckled. He is the Hokage. That alone explains a lot. By the way Shikamaru, about the clan head party, I have a... Are you coming? Shikamaru asked, though a part of him knew what the answer would be. Temari was one those people who always stands by what they say. They seldom change their minds when making a decisions and it was hard to persuade them to change. No, you know I can't stand dinner parties Shikamaru. Besides, you know how the Hyuga hosts their parties. It is so elegant and so royalty-like I'm going to look like a savage. Temari said and flicked a wrist as she did, doing what's supposed to be a hair flick. I can't stand it. Don't you think you're exaggerating? No I am not. You always have an issue with the Hyuga clan. Shikamaru pointed out. It was not the first time that Temari had said that. You came to the Inuzuka party the last time. Inuzuka's doesn't care for etiquette. Shikamaru sighed and said nothing. His wife has her own opinions and he respected it. He was about to pick the scroll up again but then remembered something. I got a new yukata. Temari blinked. She was about to say the same thing. Yukata. You bought one. Hinata helped me. It's black and I think it looks good on me. Oh. Temari looked down and decided not to say anything about the yukata that she borrowed from Kurenai. Not to mention that she has to disobey the rules as captain of the guard and leave her troops while on duty just to get her husband a yukata. That's good. At least, you like it. I do. Oh. Hinata stared at the uneaten bento box that she prepared for her husband earlier. She woke up early in the morning just to cook it. It was not a really hard cuisine for the food was just simple sushi and tempura, but still, she put a lot of effort on making it. Naruto was in their living room and she could hear the sounds of whatever he was watching on the television from the kitchen. A little disappointed for wasting food, she placed the contents of the bento boxes inside the waste bin and wiped her hands on her apron. If Naruto did not touch the bento she made, whose lunch did he eat? Naruto-kun, she said softly as she walked out of the kitchen to their small living room. Naruto was sprawled on the sofa, eyes on the television screen. You did not eat your... Hinata. Look, Naruto said with a laugh. The Raikage is being interviewed because of his coming resignation and it's so funny. The guy is obviously nervous in front of the camera. Hinata closed her mouth as Naruto slammed his hands on his lap, clearly enjoying the show. She doesn't want to disturb her husband while watching so she chose to sit beside him and waited. Naruto needs time to loosen up and relax a bit, for being a Hokage was not an easy work. If he could unwind the stress of a day's work by watching something funny, she was going to let him. Naruto laughed again, his booming voice filling the small living room and echoing through the walls. Unconsciously, Hinata smiled as she watched her husband enjoying the little things. That was one of the reasons why she was so attracted to him ever since they were academy kids. He was like the sunshine and his presence could lighten up a room. He was her sunshine. Naruto-kun. Yes. Naruto's eyes were still fixed on the television. Why didn't you? Oh look. The rakeage is sweating buckets. Hinata closed her mouth and sighed. She was feeling like a mother who was trying to get the attention of a young boy. Do you want to drink tea? I'll get you a cup. She finally said and stood up. Her husband was loving, but it was hard getting his attention sometimes. It was the typical Naruto. Naruto was still grinning when he turned his head and realized that his wife was no longer sitting beside him. Blinking owlishly, he grabbed the remote from a coffee table and turned the TV off. He sighed. His short attention span was sometimes getting the best of him. He stood and followed her chakra signature to the kitchen. Hinata was heating something in a kettle that smells like tea and chamomile. He said nothing, coming from behind her to wrap her in an embrace. Oi. Sorry Hina. What for? His wife tilted her head back to smile at him. As the show. No. I turned it off. Go watch. I'll bring you tea. Naruto placed his chin on Hinata's shoulder and inhaled. She always smells so good. No. He started kissing her neck. Hinata's skin was so soft he liked the feeling when his lips were against it. Hinata felt her cheeks heat up. Naruto-kun, I'm still preparing tea. Naruto reached for the stove and turned it off. The tea could wait. Oh. Shino wiped the fog on his glasses using his sleeve. Even if it was still mid-afternoon, the sky was dark and the wind a bit cold. It was also drizzling and the slight rain was starting to dampen his cloak. No wonder why Kiri was called the Village of Mist, for it sure was living its reputation every day. I did not expect to see you here, Sasuke. Shino transferred his gaze to the man sitting on a rocky boulder on his right. He was about to leave the boundary of the village when he spotted the traveling Uchiha. Sasuke looked different from the last time they met. His hair was longer, covering his Rinnegan eye and half of his face. It even reached his shoulders in uneven spikes. He was also wearing a black cloak that was covering him from neck to foot. I am just passing by. Sasuke answered. Shino Aburame was not a talkative person, so he decided to stop and talk. If it were other nins, he would not have bothered. Any plans to stop by Konoha? Not yet. Naruto and Sakura were expecting you back in the leaf. They were hoping that you stay for good. Sasuke let a thumb flick a drop of rainwater that was forming on the top of his nose. I'll visit if I can. Shino pocketed his hands. I am about to go back to Konoha. I just came here to make arrangements for the Chunin exams. Kurigakure is having a collaboration. That's for academy teachers. I am an academy teacher. There was silence and Sasuke raised himself from his sitting position. He grabbed his muddy pack from the ground and slung the strap over his shoulder. He was getting the hang of doing things using only his one hand, and it was not as hard as he thought it would be at first. You could always fix that with Hashirama's cells. Shino commented. It worked on Naruto. Sasuke turned his back on the Aburame. Tell Naruto I'm trailing Orochimaru. I'll return if I have reports. No message for Sakura? Shino asked. It was no secret within the Rookie Nine that the Haruno still harbors feelings for the Uchiha. Sakura has been denying Naruto and Lee's advances for years after all because of Sasuke. Sasuke did not even turn his head. Hinata watched as the front lawn of the Hyuga Manor was being filled with people in their formal garbs, mostly clan heads, representatives, or anyone that has something to do with the village politics. The front of the Hyuga mansion was decorated with glowing lanterns and beautiful blooms that only added to the sleek glow everyone has at the moment. For the first time, the Hyuga clan did not go all traditional. Everyone was wearing yukatas and kimonos, but the tables were arranged modernly. The table napkins were folded elegantly on top of the porcelain plates next to the crystal vases with fresh flowers. In the middle of the lawn, or garden, was a large buffet table with all exotic and delicious foods. Hiyashi was a proud man. He only wants the best. Hinata turned to her husband. They were still inside the mansion with Hiyashi and Hanabi, watching the activity outside in the half-opened window. Naruto-kun. Yes, pretty lady. Hinata smiled. The moment that she wore the kimono and had her hair done, just a simple braid and then bundled on top of her head, Naruto has been calling her that. She held his right arm and pulled him close. The tie of his yukata was a little loose and she started fixing it. You are going to make a speech. Naruto grinned. A piece of cake. Hiyashi's white eyes shifted from the window to his son-in-law. Naruto, please do not forget to thank all the clan heads who appeared tonight like last year. Naruto's grin faltered and he scratched his head guiltily. Last year, he was new to the Hokage thing and so he forgot to be extra polite in those 100 little things one should remember when making a speech. He was damn nervous that day and was sweating buckets. Of course, father. I won't. And do not make a joke on Daimyo Kiyoshi. He doesn't take jokes nicely. Yeah, Naruto scowled. That old man almost chewed me alive. Could not even take a good joke. Hanabi giggled. She remembered that awkward silence that followed the dinner last year when the old daimyo cried his heart out when Naruto made a joke about his long beard he took effort on curling. But that was funny. Naruto winked. Of course it was. Okay. Hinata looked satisfied when she scanned her husband's appearance. I'll go and greet the guests. Ino eyed Kiba's yukata as he sat on the chair beside Choji. Sure somebody in here got a girl to pick him his clothes. There was no way that Kiba could get a cloth as fitting and as elegant as that by himself. Back when they were still an item, she does the clothes picking for him because he was hopeless. In fact, as hopeless as her husband. When they started going out, size mini cardigan or whatever it was called was the first one to go. There was no way in the world was she going to date a boy that wears the same clothes as her. Even if it was a different color. Kiba grinned. Not only me. Look. He pointed at Shikamaru and Shino, both sitting beside each other. We have the same woman pick the yukata for us. Hinata. Ino nodded knowingly as she leaned her right side on Sai. You guys are lucky you have her as a teammate. Shikamaru looked around, impressed at such elegance and luxury the Hyuga clan was showing. The Hyugas did not hold back this year. Vaguely, he wondered what Temari was doing back in their house. He tried talking her out of her decision earlier but she wouldn't budge. They never do. Shino muttered, looking different without his long cloak. The dark shades was still there of course, for it would never leave his face except when sleeping. He tilted his head to the side, spotting Hinata walking towards them. Look at all those foods. Choji said, odd. I really have to try those. Hinata smiled upon spotting her batch mates. The smile turned wider when she noticed how good the yukatas that she picked looked on the three males. Unconsciously, her eyes landed on Shikamaru. The black color suits him and he looks good. Temari-chan still not feeling well. Shikamaru answered with a nod, unaware himself that his lips were pressed firmly. Hinata, thank you for the yukata. Shino said, standing up to give Hinata his chair. He then pulled another from one of the tables and placed it beside his teammate. Hinata was very pretty. The color of her eyes were being brought up by her kimono which was indigo colored like her hair. Where is Naruto? Father is still giving him instructions about, speeches. Ino laughed. I remember that crack joke he made about that old daimyo. Gosh, I love your husband Hinata. He sure knows how to make a party fun. Beside her, Sai shifted uncomfortably on his chair and Ino remembered that he tends to take words literally. I love him as a friend. She clarified. Kiba snickered and Ino threw him a glare. The party started fluidly and in the middle of it, Naruto made his speech as the Hokage. After him, Hiashi also made a short say as the year's host. Everyone was served with food and beverages to their heart's content as the political talks began. It was mostly for clan alliances and other topics that concern the village. Rare cases such as peace treaties or marriages were brought up along with new suggestions and ideas for clan improvements. There was also the occasional sharing of gossips. Shikamaru rubbed the back of his neck. One Aburame elder was saying something about a coming project of insect production, and no matter how hard he tried to listen, he was getting a little bored. No offense to the Aburames and Shino, but he was not really a fan of insects. He knew their importance, but he doesn't share such high enthusiasm. Shikamaru stood up and excused himself. Ino threw him a look, so he muttered something about getting fresh air. Because the front of the Hyuga main house was crowded with people, he decided to sneak into the back and pretended that he was looking for something when a few Hyuga servants asked. In truth, he was craving for nicotine and just wanted to go to some dark, cool place to smoke. Without Temari knowing, he carried a lighter and a cigarette pack inside his yukata. His wife doesn't like him smoking, for she hates the cigarette smell. Unfortunately, it was a habit for him now. He continued to walk until he reached a small garden with a single lamp post in the middle. There was no one, so he pulled a stick out and lightened it, taking a long drag when he put it in his lips. A sudden movement and chakra signature made him jerk his head to his left. Care for your lungs more, Shikamaru-kun. Ah! Shikamaru's lips tilted to the sides in a lazy smile. You bored too? Hinata stopped beside the Nara. He was taller than her, so her head was just leveled to his ear. She excused herself from the ongoing meeting and told Naruto that she wanted to get some fresh air. Yeah, I did not know. I'll find you here too. If anyone asks, I'm not smoking. Hinata let out a soft giggle. Okay, so is old man Aburame done with his insect speech yet? He asked. No, he just finished talking about beetles. He is into larvae this time. Troublesome. Don't tell Shino. Shikamaru took another drag. We have a deal. Hinata locked her hands together behind her as she stared at the fireflies flying around the lamp post. She took a deep breath. A few seconds later, her eyes widened and she coughed. It was at that same moment that Shikamaru puffed smoke from his mouth and she totally took the polluted air inside her lungs. Temari sighed and touched the withered leaves of Ino's plant. She did everything in her power to care for the potted devil, but it was no use. It was like she was cursed or something, making her realize that she will never be good enough for gardening, just as she was poor in housework. Really, a 12-year-old could do better than her. Shikamaru passed by his wife, hair still dripping wet and was spilling down on his shoulders in black spikes. He was already wearing his green shirt with netted sleeves and casual dark pants. A towel was hanging over his shoulder, which he threw into the hamper with a fluid movement of his hand. He spotted Temari's grim expression, so he stopped and peered at whatever she was looking and saw the potted plant, which obviously seen better days. Even if he tried to hide it, he could not help but smile a little. He had given the plant a week and the plant did not fail his expectations. Temari scowled. I should have returned the plant to Ino when I had the chance. It is a very exotic flower, and why'd it? Well, you tried. It is a learning experience. I hate plants. Now you are just being mean. Temari sighed and decided to change the subject. Oh, did you finish your breakfast? She straightened up and scanned her husband's appearance, wanting to see if there were some loose buttons or broken zippers that she could fix. In her typical girl mind, she pictured out a scene every morning of a wife doting on her husband and taking care of his clothes or any insignificant little things. It was because a few days ago, when she was on guard duty, she passed by the Hokage's house and saw the way Hinata fixed her husband's clothes like a pro. It was also something when Naruto allowed his wife do her thing like a boss. Temari doesn't like overly sweet scenarios, but there was nothing overly with the way the Uzumaki couple did it. It was nice and it makes her want to do it with Shikamaru too. Oh look, she pointed at Shikamaru's sleeve with a little more enthusiasm than needed. A loose thread, Shikamaru observed with amusement as Temari tried to pull out the string from his netted sleeve, wondering all the while if Temari knew for a fact that the word netted means an open meshed fabric that was knotted and woven together. For short, you pull one thread, everything comes off. He received his answer the moment he heard his wife hiss and muttered, "Shit," under her breath. "Shit, shit, shit. Is this the fashion trend right now?" he asked good-naturedly when he saw that the sleeve on his right arm was missing. Temari also now has a ball of thick thread on her hands and she was staring at it disbelievingly. "Ah, you did that on purpose, right?" Temari gritted her teeth in annoyance. For now, she has no doubt about it. She was really cursed. "I'll get you a new shirt." "Wait." Shikamaru grabbed his wife's arm, knowing that she was pissed. It was not lost to him that his wife was trying to be, well, a wife. And even if Temari was making a bad job at it, he truly doesn't mind. He did not marry her to let her do the housework. She was a kunoichi after all, one of Suna's bests and now one of Konoha's. What? Temari flashed a glare at him. She was really pissed. How could she mess up a really simple work such as fixing a sleeve? In another time, it would have been funny, but at the moment there was nothing humorous about it. "You are doing the evil eyes again," he told her. "I said I'll get you a new shirt." "No need. I can handle this." "Liar." Shikamaru pulled Temari close and gave her a big kiss on the nose. "I am not. I can't do anything right. You can tie my hair." When he was out of the house, Shikamaru let out a huge exhalation of air. He doesn't know why, but he was feeling a little uneasy. It was a heavy feeling, but he could not put his finger on what it was about. Finally, he decided to just let it go and started walking, passing by Tenten and Lee, who were both sharing an ice cream cone. He was invited to one but he declined, stating that he has a lot of work to do. When he reached the Hokage's office, he was surprised to see not the Hokage but the Hokage's wife. There was also the little devil, Sarutobi Mirai. Both pretty faces lightened up when he was spotted. "Dad." Mirai jumped from Naruto's desk and grinned. "I have no classes today, so you can't scold me." "What is she doing here?" he asked the white-eyed Uzumaki, forgetting for a bit the required polite greetings. "And where is Naruto?" "Good morning, Shikamaru." Hinata smiled. "Naruto has to go to Sakura-chan. He said it is important. He'll be back though, because we are going to eat lunch together." Shikamaru opened his mouth to say that Naruto could just send anyone in his place because he was the Hokage. One look at Hinata's smiling face, however, made him close his mouth and decide against it. "What about this trouble?" He pointed at Mirai. "Uncle Naruto saw me on his way out. He said Mom's inside his office and told me to go to her." Mirai answered jovially. "Hey, what happened to your sleeve? It looks funny." "Fashion trend." Hinata laughed softly. Knowing the once lazy Nara, something must have happened to him along the way that resulted to such fashion trend. Shikamaru never cares for clothes, but he was not that unconcerned enough to wear such with silly styles. "I can fix it. It's just netting," she offered. It really looked silly on him. Shikamaru looked down on his tattered sleeve and sighed. For sure, Temari would question him about it when he gets home, but then again, he also doesn't want to look silly. Finally fixing up his mind to accept the offer, he took off his shirt and handed it to the waiting woman. He heard Mirai squeal, "Mom, Dad looks hot." Hinata blinked. "And when did you learn something like that?" Shikamaru asked, mentally horrified. He was almost sure that Asuma was turning on his grave right now. Mirai was just 9 years old, she should not be saying things like that. "You have been hanging around Ino a lot lately." "What? I'm just saying." Mirai shrugged and turned to Hinata. "Right, Mom." Hinata pretended to be busy fixing Shikamaru's shirt. Naughty Mirai, the kid sure knows how to make the room a little more light. Oh, Naruto watched the once neat apartment of Haruno Sakura with a frown. He let his eyes roam over the pieces of discarded clothing littering the floor and over a few broken dishes. There were also crumpled chakra papers with half-written kanjis on it and some bottles of ink. He sighed and marched straight to Sakura's bedroom. He knew she was in there. The flickering and unstable chakra was telling him so. He stopped by the door, expression easing down into worry as pink hair came into view. Sakura was curled on top of the bed, an arm over her eyes. At the sight of her tear-streaked face, Naruto has a suspicion for the reason of her misery. Knowing Sakura for years, he knew that she was never that miserable if it doesn't concern Sasuke. "Sakura-chan," he said and looked at the ceiling. "Do you want me to beat sense into Tem? I could do that the next time I see him, you know." Sakura smiled. Despite of whatever state she was in, leave it to Naruto to make her feel better the second he entered the room. She doesn't want to disturb him from his duties, but she can't stop herself from sending him a message to come. And she was right. He did come. She was not trying to gain anyone's attention or anyone's pity. But at the moment, she felt nothing but left out. Ino have Sai and they could never hang out as they used to with their careers on its fullest. Naruto has Hinata now and Hokage duties, she could barely see him. Kakashi was on a trip with Guy and was out of reach even with the more improved technology. Sasuke doesn't even give a damn, despite the promise he gave her before leaving the village again. "What happened?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "To me, it was a foolish question and Sakura knew that she was going to regret it later. But at the moment, she was feeling so depressed she just have to let it out. She had been holding for the past months and today was the time to vent. Sure, she was on top of her career and was now considered as the strongest kunoichi in the village, but all that fame was nothing if she has no family and friends to celebrate it with. If only her parents did not die last year when their small apartment collapsed, at least she could have a bit of family to come home to. Naruto sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. He was so wrong. This was more than Sasuke. "Sakura-chan, I know I haven't spent some time with you like we used to, I'm sorry. It's just, I understand." Sakura let out a laugh. "How ironic, Naruto. You used to find time in the past just for me, and now, I have to make some lame excuse like cooking too much for myself just so I could bring you lunch and see you. I'm feeling so left out. Everyone is moving on while I am stranded on the same floor. Sakura, why am I always left out?" "You are not being left out. Everyone is just, well, working and having a life." Naruto sighed and sat on the bed. He pulled his best friend and ex-love up until she was pressed on him. "Sakura-chan, I'm always here. I'm always here for you, okay?" He hugged her tight. Sakura sobbed. When Naruto left the only Haruno residence inside Konoha, he felt heavier in the inside. He was bothered to find that Sakura was actually depressed. One by one, the members of the Rookie Nine were starting to fit on their rightful places and were starting to build families. Sakura was too keen on waiting for Sasuke that she was left hanging. And because she was left hanging, She felt like she was being abandoned, not only by Sasuke but by her friends. Stupid Tem, Naruto muttered as he made his way back to the tower. He wondered if Hinata was still waiting for him because last night, they decided to eat lunch together. But he stayed much longer than intended and it was past lunch time by a few hours. Now he was just feeling much worse. Shit. Because he was trying his best to make Sakura feel better, he had forgotten about the plans that Hinata made for them. Naruto sighed, wondering what Hinata might think of him after this. Knowing his wife, she would tell him that it was alright and she understands, again. It was always like that. He loved his wife, but sometimes, he just wished that she would tell him what she was really thinking. If she was angry at him, he wanted her to be angry. If she has something to say, he wanted her to say it to him out loud. He doesn't want her to hold back, he was her husband and it was alright. Shikamaru placed the pile of papers he was working on inside a thick folder with a grunt. He was done with the paperwork and was pleased that it could leave him with a few days of free time. Stretching up from his seat, he noticed for the first time that it was oddly quiet. He turned and was surprised to see Mirai curled on one of the big couches and was peacefully sleeping. The girl looks like an angel with her eyes closed and Shikamaru smiled lazily at the sight. If Asuma could see his daughter now, Shikamaru bet that his sensei would be very proud. She's really pretty. She's lucky to have Kurenai's nose. He smirked. Could you please bring Mirai back to her house for me? Hinata asked softly, watching Shikamaru by the side of her right eye as she put the finishing touches of his sleeve. The sleeve was not perfect but it will do. I am almost done with your shirt. Is that some sort of payment? He asked her with a lopsided grin. When he glanced at the clock on top of her head, the grin vanished and it was replaced with a frown. It was already 2 o'clock and Naruto's face has yet to show up. Hey, I thought you and Naruto is going to have lunch together. Something must have happened. She replied simply, assuring herself more than anything. Naruto was Hokage and his duties would always come first. He has dreamed of being the Hokage even before he saw her exist. Maybe it runs in the blood, for his parents have put everything on the line for the sake of Konoha too. Duty before blood and honor. I did my best but, she showed him the sleeve. At least it looks okay. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. Are you raised by a seamstress or something? For him, the sleeve was as good as new. His words made Hinata smile again and for that, he was glad. Stupid Naruto, making his wife wait for him while he was out doing whatever he was doing. He just hoped that it was worth it. If it was Temari, he should have been beaten into a pulp right now. But then again, it was Hinata. Gentle, understanding, and kind Hinata. Here. Hinata passed him the shirt and he accepted. Shikamaru, why are you? Naruto asked as he appeared on the entrance. Both Junins, the wife and the advisor, turned towards him with surprised looks. Naruto eyed the shirtless Nara with a curious gaze. The man was a little buffer than he used to. She fixed my shirt. The Nara answered simply. Thanks Hinata. He slipped the shirt on and walked towards Mirai. He slowly eased the drooling girl on his arms. When it showed that it was a little hard, Hinata came to his side and helped, holding the girl's arms and tucked it above Mirai's chest. Oh, right. Lee said something about your new fashion sense. I saw him on my way back. Naruto said and his blue gaze transferred to his wife. I'm so sorry Hina. I can explain. It's okay Naruto. Hinata said as she brushed a few strands of hair away from Mirai's face. Why are you so late anyway? She inwardly winced. Here comes the occasional stutter. Naruto knew something was wrong when she stutters. You have been gone for almost 3 hours. 3.5. Shikamaru corrected. Ah, Sakura-chan is having problems. It was more than Uchiha problems, but Naruto doesn't want to elaborate. There are things that even the rookie 9 should not know. Maybe his wife, but he also respected Sakura's privacy. You know their relationship. It is complicated. Shikamaru frowned. I thought it concerns the village or something. I see. Hinata said softly. Have you eaten? Naruto asked. Not yet. I'm so sorry, Hina. Plastering a smile on her face, Hinata shook her head. I can get food on my way to Kurenai, Sensei's house. Shikamaru-kun is going to bring Mirai home, so I can go with him. For the third time, Shikamaru heard Hinata's stomach growl. When he looked at her, she smiled shyly and dropped her head. You should have told Naruto that you are hungry. Then kick his for making you wait. It's alright. Sakura-chan is his teammate, so duty before blood and honor. He made you wait. He did not know he was making me wait. Because he forgot. Even if he was feeling irritated for Hinata's sake, Shikamaru can't help but tilt the sides of his lips into a smile. No matter how he looked at it, Naruto was on the wrong side of the plate and it was stupid. Hinata, however, was playing it like a martyr. Guess he liked that about her. Troublesome. It's okay. Hinata answered truthfully. I don't mind. You better grab something to eat. I can take Mirai back alone and you fill that grumbling stomach. Thank you, Shikamaru-kun. Sorry for the trouble. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow. This is not a favor, Hinata. You have to take my place this Tuesday on Mirai's Genin meeting. Kurenai won't be available because she is going to be on a mission. Hinata giggled. You are proposing for an exchange. I thought it's your turn to attend the meeting. I did it the last time. I can't stand meetings. Okay. Then I'll go. Oh. Naruto emerged from the bathroom, wiping his dripping blonde hair with a towel. Hinata was already sprawled on the bed and she was reading some kind of book. When he glanced at the cover to see the title, he was surprised to know that it was about faraway lands. He never knew his wife was curious about faraway places. Some of Hinata's missions required for her to go to a few distant places, but as far as he knew, his wife never reached the ends of the shinobi map. The farthest that she was able to go was Kiri, and Kurigakure was just a week's travel from Konoha. He dropped the towel on a laundry basket and walked to their drawers to pull a white sleeveless shirt. Hey. Even if Hinata had voiced out that she had no ill feelings for what he did earlier, he could still not move on from it. He was feeling like a total jerk. Hinata never made him wait, not even once. His wife looked up from her book and looked at him expectantly. I'm sorry about earlier. There is no excuse. I am such a stupid husband. Naruto-kun. Hinata closed the book and placed it on the side of the bed. When Naruto started using that tone of voice, she knew that he was really regretting it. Naruto was an open book. She could easily read his mind by studying his emotions. Perhaps, she could read him better than he could understand himself. I understand. Sakura-chan needs you. But I really feel bad. She shook her head and crawled to the end of the mattress. I have teammates too, and they are family to me. If Kiba or Shino needs me, I will come to them and do my best to help, without hesitation. Naruto sat beside his wife and smiled. He sure was a lucky bastard to have a woman like her. Hinata was more than his lifesaver, for she was his other half. Come here. He gathered her in his arms and let her sat on his lap. Can we eat lunch together tomorrow? Naruto shook his head. Let me think about it. Naruto-kun. Naruto grinned. His wife was pouting. I'm kidding. Hinata giggled as her husband tried to make amends, even if there was no need for it because she was not at all angry. By the way, Naruto said and looked up to see her eyes. Help me pick someone that will be sent to Crystal Country for the new peace talks. That nin should be calm and nice, not the wild kind. He remembered when he allowed Kiba Inuzuka to handle a treaty meeting with a daimyo. The peace talks almost got destroyed because Kiba ended challenging that proud daimyo into a fight. He needed someone who was gentle and the aura was trustworthy. The people of Crystal Country should be able to trust the representative in order to allow the peace talks. Peace treaties were mostly successful if the bringer was also a picture of peace. Me. Hinata answered with a grin. Naruto frowned. Are you serious? Yes. Forget it. Naruto crossed his arms and pouted. Crystal Country was far, even farther from Kiri. It was a small island that was made of crystals because of the sedimentary formation of sea rocks underneath. It was beautiful, for he visited it once, but still. He doesn't want Hinata to leave his sight. Hinata pouted. Ever since she married Naruto, the missions that were given to her were becoming less. She was thankful for it, but as a kunoichi, she misses the action of working in the field. I can do the peace talks, I was trained all my life in politics. But it's so far. I am a kunoichi. You are my wife. I can do this. Hinata looked back to her husband with determination in her white moon-like eyes. Usually, she would let Naruto have his way, but the idea of going to the beautiful Crystal Country was making her excited. She had read about that place in books and it was said that going there was good luck. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and she was not going to let it go. You should stop reading those books. Naruto pointed at her book just so he could blame something. With the way she stared back at him, he knew could never say no. Fine. I'll allow it. Hinata squealed. But in one condition. What condition? I'll be more at ease if one of the rookie 9 goes with you. I originally intend it to be a 2-man team, but with you going, I am going to make it into 3. Naruto raised 3 fingers to emphasize his point. Shino is a teacher and busy preparing the Chunin exams, so he can't go with you. Neither could Kiba and Lee, for I assigned them on separate missions today. How about Tenten? Hinata asked. Or Ino? Naruto grimaced. I want it to be guys. You needed to be guarded by guys because if I group pretty females together, it would attract too much attention. With your face and Tenten alone, it would be disastrous. Add Ino and it is going to be hell. You are exaggerating. Hinata pointed out, but she was smiling. The rain was harsh and the winds cold. Konoha's 3-man unit has no shelter from it except for a few big branches and thick leaves. Size ink birds could help them fly over the lands easily, but it was hard and dangerous to travel that way in such weather. Shikamaru, Hinata, and Sai just left the boundaries of Konoha and now on their first day of their peace talk mission for Crystal Country. Hinata squinted her eyes as raindrops obscured her vision. Looking at the dark sky, the rain was obviously just starting and it was getting stronger by the minute. Even with their white shinobi standard raincoat, it was still not enough to shield them from the cold and wetness. My first day to lead a peace talk mission and look what welcomes me. She giggled, trying to lighten the mood. Beside her, Sai smiled his tight-lipped smile. I am sorry that my ink birds could be of no help, Hinata-chan. It's okay. We can manage. Hinata answered and wiped another batch of rainwater from her eyes. Next to Sai, walking with his hands inside his raincoat pockets, Shikamaru tilted his head ever so slightly to glance at his other 2 unit members. Hinata was a walking blue mess while Sai was like a walking corpse. Ino's husband was so pale he looks like he lost all of his blood. Hey Sai, I think you are paler compared to your usual, pale complexion. He commented. Are you feeling well? Because it is raining and very cold. Sai answered simply. Hinata-chan is pale too. Shikamaru wanted to point out that at least, Hinata-chan doesn't look like she lost gallons of blood, but figured that it was best to just shut up. It was nonsensical and he could just drop it at that. Hinata let out another light giggle. She could see what Shikamaru was talking about and she was about to ask Sai about it herself. I have no idea that you could look like that when it's cold. Sai shrugged. When we take a bath together in cold mornings, Ino always say that I look like a person without blood. I figured that it is just the cold. Please do not mind me, I am absolutely fine. Hinata stopped giggling and coughed. She did not expect for the ink nin to blurt that information so bluntly. She knew about Sai's tendency to be very honest and sometimes his lack of proper sense in what words to choose, but still, she could not help but feel surprised. Sai will never give up information when it comes to missions, but with the people he considers friends, he was a little too loose. Shikamaru sighed and shook his head. I'll pretend that I didn't hear that. Did I say something rude? Sai asked, sounding worried. Hinata exchanged a look with the Nara before smiling at the Anbu captain. No, Sai-kun, you did not say anything wrong. We are your friends after all. It's just, I think it is best that your times with Ino-chan you keep to yourself. You love her very much, right? I do. Sai answered honestly. So if you love a person, it is best that you keep your memories together close to your heart and cherish it. It won't be that special anymore if all of your friends know about your special moments with Ino-chan. Sai nodded thoughtfully. I see now. There were so much to learn with people's proper manners and appropriate conversations, that all the times he spent in studying about it were not enough. Maybe some of the lessons he got from his books doesn't apply in marriage. I will bear that in mind. Thank you, Hinata-chan. I know you will, Sai. The journey continued more silently after Sai's verbal slip, and no one bothered to ask him about anything in fear that he might blurt out something that would haunt their minds in the most unpleasant way. The rain lasted for a good 4 hours and all of them were shivering to the bones when they stopped to rest and eat their early supper. Even if the rain had stopped, the ground was still wet and the branches slippery. Their unit has to eat on a muddy clearing without fire that could keep them warm and provide some light. When Hinata started coughing, Shikamaru asked Sai if he could get on his ink bird and looked around the area to see if he could spot a house nearby. Unknown to others, he was personally instructed by Naruto to keep an eye on Hinata. Care for her needs if there were any and see to it she was always safe and healthy. That was why when Sai spotted a house a few kilometers away from where they were, Shikamaru insisted, despite Hinata's disagreement, that they stopped for a bit to change into dry clothes and get warm. They have money, they could pay. Oh. Sakura smiled guiltily at Naruto the moment she entered his office. She wasn't able to show her face to him for a week because she was so embarrassed of what she did when they last met. She was able to say very silly things too. When Naruto saw her, he grinned. Hey Hokage, can I come in? Absolutely. Heard Hinata is on a mission? She asked when she seated herself in front of him. Naruto was reading something from a file that was labeled, Mission Report. He placed it down on his desk to stretch his arms up and yawned. Yeah, she's with Shika and Sai. Crystal Country. Remember when we visited it together with Kakashi-sensei? Yeah, Sakura smiled at the thought. Hey, I thought you don't allow her to go on missions anymore. Naruto looked aghast. His father-in-law would him if he heard of it. Who said that? Of course I allow her to go on missions. She is still a kunoichi of the leaf. He was minimizing the number of Hinata's missions, but that doesn't mean he doesn't allow her. Vaguely, Naruto wondered if that was the reason why Hinata was so eager about the mission to Crystal Country. It's just that, there are not a lot of missions coming lately. I see. Sakura pretended to understand but knew otherwise. Naruto was very protective of his wife and even though it was a little biased, he doesn't send her on B to S class missions to ensure that she was safe. So anything I could help you with, Sakura-chan? Sakura looked down and let a nervous smile pass over her lips. I came here to say I'm sorry. What for? Naruto frowned. For the, Sakura tucked a strand of bubblegum pink hair behind her ear. That little slip I had a few days ago. I was tired, so I took some pills, and then maybe they messed up my brain for a bit or something. She chuckled. Silly me. Don't be sorry. Naruto studied his former teammate with an electric blue gaze. Sakura looks the same, but there were dark circles under her eyes. That day when she cried her worries and problems to him, he caught a glimpse of what she was feeling. She thought she was left out. Have you eaten lunch? He found himself asking. Without Shikamaru, the paperwork was piling up, but Naruto guessed that he could spare a few minutes for the Haruno. When Sakura shook her head, Naruto grinned and pushed his chair back. Good. What do you say let's eat some ramen at Ichiraku's? Don't you have work to do? Sakura eyed Naruto's messy desk. I have, but a Hokage's got to eat. Besides, I miss old man's ramen. I haven't eaten one for days. Hinata smiled gratefully at the old man who was the owner of the house that they were currently using as shelter. At first, the hermit, that was what the old man calls himself, was hesitant about helping ninjas, even though they came from a friendly village. But when Shikamaru offered him the money, he grudgingly accepted, muttering something about buying food and other daily life necessities. The hermit didn't smile back but thrusts a steaming cup of greenish liquid to Hinata's face. Drink. Hinata accepted with an amused look. That's for the cough, the hermit said to her, and then threw a bunch of blankets on Shikamaru and Sai, who were sitting on the wooden floor with their legs crossed. Shikamaru removed the blanket from his face, mirroring Hinata's amused expression. They exchanged glances and Hinata grinned. He grinned back. We will leave at first light, old man. Shikamaru said, and the hermit responded with a nod. We might leave even before you wake up, so do not be surprised. That is good for me. When the three of them were alone, Hinata settled comfortably on the farthest corner of the room. It was not because she doesn't trust the two guys, but all of them were married and it was awkward to sleep close them. If she was with Kiba and Shino, it was okay, but Shika and Sai were a different matter. So, we are going to ride a ship tomorrow. Hinata murmured from her corner, and Shikamaru tilted his head to look at her. The faint light of the moon coming from the room's single window illuminated her eyes even more when she stared back. Even with missions, I was never able to pass by this direction. I passed this area a few times. Sai said. Shikamaru flexed his neck. I did too. I see. Hinata nodded. Of course, that would only make sense. Shikamaru was a Junin before all of them were even fully fledged Chunins, while Sai was a member of the route. We could always use my ink birds to travel across sea. Flying is faster than using a boat or a ship. Sai said. But even so, it would take us a few days to reach Crystal Country, and we also need to rest and eat. We can't do that on top of a bird. The next morning, they set off before the sun was up. They left the hermit's house without saying goodbye. Shikamaru suspects that the old man won't even care, but Hinata was insistent upon leaving a few tokens of gratitude. What Hinata was thanking the old gruff man for, Shikamaru doesn't know. But he has to humor her when she left a few vials of her homemade salve on the table beside a written note of instructions on how to use it. He might just throw it out. Shikamaru told Hinata as he looked up at the bright sky. The sky was clear and it was a good sign for traveling. Your salve would just go to waste, Hinata. He won't throw it away. Hinata answered simply. She was smiling to herself. How could you be so sure? Hinata shrugged. I checked with my Byakugan. He took it after we were out of sight. He is still a gruff old man. He is alone. He must be lonely. Sai stopped walking and took a scroll out of his vest pocket. They could have worn clothes that would mark them as civilians, but the three of them chose to wear their standard shinobi vests, in size case, the gray-colored standard for Anbu. Hinata suggested it because they were in for a peace mission, and when it comes to peace, there was nothing to hide. After playing with his brush and coal-black ink, Sai closed his scrolls with a flourish just as two giant ink birds appeared beside him in a puff of white smoke. Hinata eyed the birds with awe. It was a display of Sai's talent, and even though she already saw him in action, she still could not help but be impressed. However, she wasn't able to compliment his art because in her count, the number of ink birds doesn't equal to the number of riders. Without a word, Shikamaru leapt on one of the birds and gestured for Hinata to do the same. "We'll take this one, Hinata." "Oh, okay." Hinata leapt gracefully behind the Nara but placed her arms stiffly behind her. She doesn't know why, but she was very careful not to touch him too much, so instead, she channeled some of her chakra on each side of her leg to keep her on place. "Are you set?" Shikamaru asked while Sai's other bird already leapt into the air and flew. "I am." Hinata answered and reached for her blue hair. She bit off a black elastic band on her wrist and used it to tie the long tresses in preparation for the hash winds. When they were in the air, Hinata in her breath. This part of the map was more beautiful if one would look at it from above. The trees look like green carpet while the mountains never looked more majestic. She could also see a stream that leads to a small waterfall. "Beautiful," Hinata murmured. The sky was clear and there were no signs of coming rain, so the small unit was able to keep on riding the ink birds until noon. They took a rest from the harsh heat of the sun and continued after a few hours. By evening, they managed to reach a dock near a small town. Hinata winced when she left the birds back. It was the first time that she rode on one and her legs felt stiff and wobbly. Sai smiled. Naruto got sick when he first rode on one of the ink birds. "I commend you for not vomiting." "Air sickness?" Hinata asked with a smile, her mind forming images of her husband's younger self turning green after getting off a bird. Naruto told her that he always gets seasick, but she doesn't know that he also have traveling issues in air. "You can call it like that." Sai formed a seal and the birds vanished. A few of the locals, fishermen and sailors by the looks of it, were staring at them curiously. Some even openly pointed at them, surprised at such an entrance. Sakura healed Naruto so he did not suffer much. Hinata nodded. Sakura-chan is a very skilled medic even before she was able to activate the genesis of rebirth. Naruto tried to kiss Sakura in gratitude and she ended punching him again and again. Sai added, still smiling white, trying to recall the memories from years back. "When I asked, Naruto said it was okay to kiss those who are special to you." That's, nice." Hinata's smile vanished from her face. Unconsciously, she remembered how Naruto had forgotten about their planned lunch when he disappeared to help with Sakura's problems. At that moment, something cold formed on the pit of her stomach. She caught herself and she shook her head, surprised at the sudden jealousy that she felt. She never knew she could feel that way. Jealousy. It was normal, but with a tinge of anger. Very surprising. You have no emotions back then. I'm surprised you remembered such memory. Shikamaru said dryly, noticing Hinata's grim expression. Idiot Ink Nin. I have a sharp memory, but you are right. I have no emotions back then. Sai answered with another one of his tight-lipped smiles. I have improved for that past years, but I have to admit that I'm a little rusty when it comes to interacting verbally. I can see that. Shikamaru murmured and shook his head. Sai was one of the deadliest Anbu out there. Give him specific instructions and he will perform the mission fluidly. Unfortunately, when he was talking to friends, he gets a little carried away with his eagerness to have a successful conversation. You two stay here. I'll find a ship that could take us to Crystal Island. The ship that Shikamaru found was medium-sized and could take up to 30 people and 15 sailors as the ship's crew. He paid the captain a good amount for the three of them and they were escorted to a small cabin that they will occupy for the journey. There were other people too, passengers who are traveling to different places. Before the ship sailed, Sai managed to search for a few more additional supplies, especially food, since the captain said that provisions were not part of the traveling bargain. Hinata watched as the lights of the dock slowly disappeared from sight. The night air was thick and she could feel the salt on it. When she licked her lips to moisten the skin, she could also taste salt. She pulled a foil pack of raisin bread from her vest pocket and tore it with her teeth. She hoped that Naruto won't eat instant food tonight. He promised her that he won't, but sometimes her husband was a little hard-headed. Mom, is that a kunoichi? Hinata looked to her side. There was a small girl, maybe 7 years of age, standing beside a woman who looked like she was already in her mid-30s. The girl was pointing at her with big eyes and her mother hastily pushed her thin arm down. She's pretty. Her eyes are like, shish. Mirai, it is rude to stare and point to. It's okay. Hinata smiled at the young girl and the mother looked embarrassed. Is your name Mirai? The child nodded shyly. How did you know I am a kunoichi? The child grinned. You are wearing a vest like the ninjas in our village. The color is different though. You know, Hinata continued, taking a step forward. I know a girl back home named Mirai. She is very dear to me. The child's eyes widened. Same as my name. Yes. She is beautiful like you. Shikamaru emerged from the cabin assigned to his unit and instantly saw Hinata standing near the ship's railing. She was talking to a young girl who was being held by an older woman by the arm. It was easy to spot Hinata because, for instance, she was still wearing her standard green vest like him. He saw her gave the young girl a small foil pack. The girl accepted happily and the mother smiled, muttering words of thanks before walking away. When Hinata was alone, he walked towards her with his hands in his pockets, trying to dig out his nicotine sticks. It's cold out here, he muttered, putting a stick of cigarette on his lips. You should get in. Hinata turned her head and looked at the dark waters. Maybe later. I kind of like the sea smell. Mind if I smoke? He clicked the metal lighter's top half. Hinata shrugged. I don't mind, but please be moderate about it, Shikamaru-kun. It is not good for your lungs. Silence engulfed them both as the Nara focused his attention on the same dark horizon that Hinata was staring at. Around them, they could hear the scurrying of a few sailors and some passengers going on and about their business, giving them curious looks on the way. Ah, how long till we reach Crystal Island again? Hinata asked. 4 days by boat and 5 days to reach the Crystal Country. Hinata looked thoughtful. I see. Oh. Choji waved at Temari before he disappeared around the corner. Temari smiled at the small pack of jujubes. She likes them and Choji remembered to bring her some. Closing the door behind her, Temari placed Choji's gift on the small round table and got a small bowl from the dish rack. Making jujube candies was easy, and even though she was not an expert in cooking, she knew she was capable of making such a simple treat. Shikamaru and Sai opened their eyes at the sounds of retching and coughing. They were both sleeping on the floor, resting both of their heads on their packs. They stared at each other and instantly looked around for their female member. Hinata's sleeping sack was empty. Sai tilted his head to the small door that leads to the bathroom. The retching sounds were coming from there. Hinata-chan must be unwell. Shikamaru stood up and flexed his neck. Go back to sleep, Sai. I'll see to her. When he reached the bathroom door, he knocked and the retching sounds ceased only to be replaced by sharp breaths. Hinata, is everything okay? I'm seasick. The words were followed by a faint laugh. Silly me. May I come in? Hinata wiped the hair from her face and reached for the toilet flush. She pressed it. Ah, Shikamaru-kun, you really don't want to see me. I'm a mess. It's okay. The door creaked open and the Nara's head poked in. He took in her bent form and how green her face had turned. The orange color of the small lamp beside her was making her look sickly. You know, fresh air will help with the dizziness. Okay. I'll go out as soon as I collect my strength. You go back to sleep. She smiled, apologetic. I'm sorry to wake you. It's fine. Why don't you stand up from there and let's go outside? But you have to sleep. I can't sleep. Honestly, after 2 days in this ship I'm also a little dizzy. When Hinata finally agreed, Shikamaru helped her stand and together, they left the cabin while Sai lifted his head to watch them quizzically. They told the Anbu that they were just getting fresh and he just responded with a smile. Hinata closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The wind was cold and thick and smells of the sea. It helps soothe her headache and stomach. You're right. I'm feeling much better now. Shikamaru pocketed his hands and leaned on the ship's side. Yeah, Shikamaru-kun. Naruto told you to watch over me, didn't he? Hinata asked suspiciously. Naruto was not really happy with her going on a mission that was too far for his radar. Ah, Shikamaru trailed. Hinata sighed. He did. Is that a bad thing? No, just silly. It was silly. She was a kunoichi. And even though she was not the heiress and as strong as her deceased genius cousin, she was still a Hyuga that has been trained all her life for ninja work. Naruto was very protective of her, but sometimes, she just wanted him to acknowledge her skills. She was not trying to be selfish, but there was a part of her that was offended, well, slightly. It was because if she wanted to go out on a mission, she wanted to go with people that treated her as an equal. She doesn't want to be viewed as someone to be protected and looked over. Shikamaru shrugged. He is your husband. It is normal for him to do so. Not to mention that Naruto is Hokage and he could order anyone to do so. If Temari was in my place, and you are in Naruto's, will you do the same? Shikamaru shrugged. Maybe. I don't know Hinata. Temari was not Suna's military leader for nothing. Hinata smiled. Probably not. Temari-chan is very strong. Shikamaru observed the Uzumaki woman by the side of his eye. She was staring straight at nothingness with her eyes that were now eerily gray because of the dark. Actually, it is not only Naruto who told me to watch over you. Hinata blinked. Who? Mirai. Quote. Oh, troublesome. Hinata giggled and let a hand brush her hair back as she did. Actually, she told me to watch over her dad too. Before the mission started, the young Sarutobi pleaded that Hinata watched over her dad, because he might wound himself, or drown, and a lot of other scenarios that could happen on their way, well, as much as Mirai's colorful imagination can conjure. I knew it. Shikamaru scratched his head. Mirai is very fond of you. She wants you safe. Hinata said as she tilted the side of her lips up. You have been standing as her dad since she was a baby. It's my responsibility. I am the godfather. Shikamaru answered with a shrug. The two Junin kept quiet after that, letting their seasickness be bathed away by the strong winds. It would have continued that way if both haven't jerked their bodies into full ninja mode when they heard a girlish scream followed by the sounds of splashing water. Man overboard. Someone screamed from somewhere in the ship. Instantly, Hinata activated her Byakugan. Mirai. Mirai, what? Shikamaru asked, bewildered. Hey Hinata. The woman whipped past him in a blur. He tried to get a hold of her but she was too fast for his grasp. Finally, he raised a hand to form a hand seal and stopped her with his shadow bind technique. Hinata instantly froze on her tracks. What do you mean Mirai? He asked, running to her side. No, not our Mirai. It's the girl I met the other day. Oh, Shikamaru dispersed the jutsu and Hinata instantly spun, veins popping around her eyes. The girl from the other day. He had noticed a small girl, younger than their Mirai, following Hinata around the ship. It was the same girl that he saw talking to Hinata on their first night at sea. I'll get her. She fell that way. With her wide vision range, Hinata could see the young girl flapping wildly on the water and gasping for air. The direction she was pointing was at her right. You go and tell the sailors. They are over there. She pointed left. She turned, about to leap from the railing when she felt Shikamaru grabbed her arm. No, I'll go, you tell the sailors. I can see better in the dark. Hinata said before pulling her hand away. The mist was strangely growing thicker, and even with her Byakugan, it was a hindrance. Shikamaru frowned but nodded his consent. It was also at that moment when a puzzled Sai emerged from the cabin, giant scroll on his back and a paintbrush at the ready. Hinata leapt and activated her chakra to build on her feet before she landed on the water. Why did Hinata-chan jump? Sai asked, running beside the Nara, who was looking around for a sailor. A young girl fell. Hinata landed on the water with a dull thump as she controlled the chakra on her feet. The young girl was flapping around wildly, desperately kicking her thin legs just to keep her body afloat. The gasping sounds that the girl was making made her flinched. Bending over to grab the girl's arms, Hinata clicked her tongue when she failed. It was very dark and she knew the young girl could not see her. No normal vision could do that in this kind of darkness. It also did not help that her arms were slippery with water. It's all right. It's me. The white-eyed Kunoichi, she said, trying to make the girl calm as she grabbed her arms. It's okay now. I got you, Mirai. The white-eyed Kunoichi. The girl muttered. Yes. It's me. Hinata heaved and pulled. The girl, to Hinata's surprise, giggled. In normal times, it would have been a very adorable sound. Weirdly, it sent chills down her spine and made her skin tingle. For a second there, Hinata got a feeling that she should let go of the person she was holding. Good. The young girl said, wrapping her arms around Hinata's neck before pulling her down. Shikamaru stopped in front of a few people huddled in a corner of the ship. It was a few meters away from where Hinata made her jump. The people were all looking worried and a few passengers were opening their cabin doors in order to investigate the reason of the commotion. In the middle of the crowd was a young girl. She was wet and shivering. Shikamaru saw the captain of the ship. He knew him because the man was the one who took the money he offered for their passage. A girl fell. My comrade jumped from the deck to rescue her. His eyes slowly landed on the girl. Please stop the ship until my comrade returns. The captain, a burly-looking man in his 50s, looked at Shikamaru with a frown. Yes. A girl fell but my men managed to retrieve her instantly. We threw a rope and she held onto it. We are the ones who pulled her up. He then pointed at the young girl who was now in the arms of a wailing woman. When the girl looked up, Shikamaru recognized the girl to be the one that Hinata was talking about rescuing. No, someone fell in that area. Shikamaru pointed at the direction where he and Sai came from. On that part of the ship. The captain's frown became more pronounced. I am sorry, mate, but the girl fell on this part of the ship. I would have jumped myself as she did not manage to hold on to the ropes. And by the way, from all the passengers, this is the only girl aboard. Shikamaru exchanged glances with Sai. Instantly, the two of them ran to the side of the ship and to everyone's horror, jumped. Oh. Temari groaned as she checked the wooden dummy that she had been using as a target. All the kunai were spot on except for the last one that she threw. Instead of hitting any vital parts like the chest, head, or throat, the kunai hit the lower part of the dummy's arm. It was strange. She had been aiming for the chest and the arm was a little far from it. Must be the wind, Temari muttered as she picked up a few weapons on the ground. She was training today because Yugao had taken over her place for a few days to give her some free time. Being a military captain doesn't give Temari enough time to train, and she was thankful that the Anbu veteran was nice enough to take over her duties. Pulling a towel from her pocket, she wiped her face from the sweat and then her neck, still frowning at her target. She rarely misses, and to top all that, the target was not moving at all. With a scowl, Temari decided to let the matter go even though it still bothers her a lot than it should have. After fixing up her things and making sure to replace the poor wooden dummy with a new one, Temari made her way back to the Nara compound to do a little house cleaning. She hates cleaning up for she prefers to be out in the field playing with her weapons, but she also doesn't want to live in a place that looks like a garbage bin. Besides, Shikamaru preferred the house clean. On her way, she passed by Ino and Tenten. The two rookie 9 kunoichi looked like they were chatting about something important and at the same time, amusing. Ino's eyes were wide and Tenten's face was a picture of shock. She stopped by them to investigate. Tenten looks pale. Temari motioned for the mocha-eyed girl with the hair buns. Something wrong. Ino squealed and grabbed Temari's wrist. I just found out that she is pregnant. Ino, shish. Tenten warned, looking around the place in case someone passed by them. Lower your voice. Pregnant. Temari's eyes focused on Tenten's middle region and sure enough, she found a light flicker of foreign chakra. It doesn't belong at all with Tenten's. It was an entirely new life force. Oh, now that I focused on it, yeah, I can see it. Oh my god. Lee is going to be. Ino raised her hands up. Ecstatic. Temari let a smile hover over her lips as she looked the blushing brunette. Who would have thought that Rock Lee was actually that impatient? It was not a bad thing, but she can't help but wonder why the two didn't get married first before doing something intimate. But Tenten and Lee don't belong in any clans, so they don't have the same pressure that clan members have. So maybe they just let their hormones have their way. Okay. Ino fanned herself with her hands. No use lying to me, Tenten. How's Lee in the bedchamber? Really? I am curious like hell. Ino. Tenten exclaimed, but she was smiling. Please don't say that, at least not out loud. Come on. You're not Hinata, okay? So please tell me. Tell me. Temari sighed and gave Tenten a sympathetic look. Once Ino started begging, there was no choice but to humor her. She had seen Shikamaru on the same situation a lot of times, and the Yamanaka always gets what she wanted when it comes to her husband. But even so, Temari has to admit that she was also curious like Ino. It was Rock Lee after all, and for her, he was a little odd. Tenten smiled to herself as she placed a hand on her belly. I'm sure that Lee is going to bring up marriage again after hearing this news. Lee has been bugging her about marriage for a few months now, but she was still looking for some sort of sign before building a family.